We are in Spirit Vine Center, and this is September 2019. Particularly, what was the biggest insight you have during this retreat? What did you discover?
For me, the biggest insight was, and I've been told this before in therapy, but really I was able to intuitively grasp that, I'd spent so much time trying to mold and shape the people around me and the world around me to be the way I wanted. And then I really grasped that I can't do that. What I can do is I can control and shape myself to react to the world. And once I really saw the potential in that, I realized that this is incredible. That was to me the larger insight. One of the larger
what a
ones.
relief!
It was a relief.
No, because it was a big job to change everybody.
Yeah, it was.
Trying to back.
It was quite the job.
Trying to change everybody without success.
No, not without success.
Yeah, it's a big insight to realize why they have to be the way I want.
Mm-hmm.
No, so to work in acceptance.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, accepting the world and the people around me for who they are.
So probably when we want that, it's because we are not accepting ourselves.
Right.
So when you start loving, no, we do exercises here to connect with your inner child and start loving you and putting protection inside. When you do that, you are less critical
Mm-hmm.
with others because you started loving yourself.
Right. And it's even more than that. There's so many insights that I couldn't even start listing them. It wouldn't make sense to. So many profound things that I've learned. It's almost like a forced meditation. It's like a forced inward meditation that lasts hours and hours, and you just have to sit there and think about what's troubling you the most. And when you come out of it, you're just given the answers to these complex issues that years of therapy couldn't even answer. And it was just incredible.
Yeah, ayahuasca put the light
Mm-hmm.
in our pattern of behavior and amplify it so we can see it clear.
Yep.
It's me doing certain things. Michael, you have experience in Buddhism. How can you put together these two methods?
Well, both professionally and personally, I come from a biopsychosocial spiritual model. So most of that comes from working in mental health, but except for the spiritual piece, which was my own piece. And I've always seemed drawn to Buddhism and the practices such as mindfulness meditation and loving kindness. And I find coming here is very much a spiritual journey for me. In a previous retreat, there was a person from the Middle East, and we were joking that it was like coming to Mecca. And I have found it extremely helpful to my spiritual practice. There are insights specifically related to that from this retreat. I was shown how patterns in my thinking had an impact on all of those areas. So biologically, psychologically, socially, my relationships, and spiritually.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. In the spiritual sphere, my negative behaviors, which can be summed up with the title of rumination. I ruminate about issues. And when I ruminate about issues, I was shown that I lose the present moment entirely. It fades from view, and I lose the beauty of the present moment, and it can completely disappear. And that it will take more practice from me. I need to pay attention to that, and I need to be mindful to remain in the present moment. And that may sound like a very basic teaching, but on a practical level, it was extremely helpful for me to be reminded of that. And I was given visual analogies. So I was shown spectacular visuals. And even in ceremony, my mind can wander. And when my mind wandered, the spectacular visuals faded. And when I would come back, they would brighten. And this happened several times. And I was told this is what happens when I ruminate in my normal life and the beauty of the present moment fades. And I'll have that analogy, that visual analogy, as a new tool. So when I'm ruminating, I will know that the present moment is fading.
So well put. That's so well put.
And what about your OCD? Did you feel better? Something changed?
Yeah, so that was on the first round. So, and again, as I mentioned before, I didn't have any visions or anything like that. So it was just, it was disappointing actually, because everybody else was seeing all this stuff. So I was like, well, I'll just enjoy the ride, I guess, with some frustration. And then literally the day it ended, and this is what I was saying earlier, it's like you don't even know stuff's working in the background, so to speak. And so, my OCD, it's not as strong as some, but not as weak. And so a lot of times it's like the light switch is always on, right? And this time, literally right afterwards, it was like there was a dimmer switch put in place then, and it just kind of went down. I still have it, but it's not like annoying the hell out of everybody. And so, so I'm actually able to function, and it's like you were saying, it's kind of like the monkey's off your back, or it's lessened, and so you can actually feel more relief, which is a great feeling. Therapy, I've been doing that with 2 years, and which is usually more of a download than it is actually therapy. But this has been phenomenal. I mean, it's just like broke through so many different things, without having to do much other than drink that brew.
But this
which is
time you
brew.
had a lot of visions.
What's that?
This time you had visions.
Yeah, so actually I only had one. The other one I had a lot of visions in the sense of, it was very celestial. It was like awesome. It was like a lot of the tapestries that Tio has, and amazing, but really connecting any dots with it.
Yeah.
Don't really understand it. I'm sure there was stuff going on. This time I only had one, and it really brought to the forefront that, being born in an orphanage, or not in it, but being in that, and that was like profound, but I didn't really get to dig into it. So.
It is curious that you never associated being in an orphanage with trauma.
Yeah, no.
For you, there is no charge there. There is nothing.
Yeah. Well, I think
Even thinking rationally, don't you think that there must be something traumatic there?
it's weird. It's like you don't think about it because you're a kid, so it's not like it's at the forefront of your thoughts. So it's usually you get so involved in you deal with the stuff that you can consciously think about, right, as an adult, and those are the things that you kind of equate to being your trauma. So to think of something like that, which you don't even think about, it's one of those unconscious things, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
So I think it's the unconscious, the repressed memories started to appear slowly,
Yeah.
and in sooner or later you will start connecting the dots,
Yeah.
because for some reason appeared that memory.
Yeah, it'd be nice to know more. So next year.
Next retreat.
Yeah, exactly.
What was so beyond your expectations specifically? Tell me one at least.
Well, again, it was just really understanding myself and seeing all of my patterns and things, and how much I tend to look after other people. Because in the first ceremony I was told I don't look after myself, and I thought, I really do look after myself. I thought it meant what I put in my body, or what I do with my body, or more body things really. And I suddenly realized that I don't actually, because I spend a lot of my emotional and mental energy caring for other people and caring that other people aren't okay and nurturing, but I wasn't actually really nurturing my own soul. And that's what it taught me. And that was very much my first insight into myself, is that I have to do that in order to. I have to do my own work and not concentrate on how everyone else is. And that's what it meant. It didn't mean I wasn't actually physically looking after myself, but I wasn't looking after my soul and my spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my first insight. And my second insight, actually, was also to trust my instinct. and then to put those, and I'd learnt those lessons and to accept, and those I had to have learnt those lessons before I had the really profound experience where I became the star of my own show, which was just incredible.
And you, Mark, what was the biggest insight?
I've experienced so first of all, I guess, coming here, I didn't think I needed to come, so I was resistant to coming for a long time. And I think there was definitely a lot of unconscious resistance. The one that was consciously there was that I felt that I've spent enough time numbing myself with alcohol in particular, but food, coffee, external things, distracting myself. And I was convinced that the answer wasn't in putting another substance in my body. So I didn't think that I needed to do ayahuasca. But then, counter to that, I'd heard people like Tim Ferriss talk about on his podcast. He's doing a lot of work in psychedelics, and I think Gabor Mate or Michael Pollan, one of them said that it was like doing 15, or one of his friends even said it was like doing 15 years of therapy in two nights. And I thought, that's interesting. So I think what I've realised is it speeds everything up. And Fatima, you said I think you could spend years meditating and make this much progress, and you can make this much progress in a week here. I can really feel that coming out of the other side of it. So many things, so many blessings. My heart was blown open on the first day, and I had this amazing visual show, which was incredible. And then the next time was very much in feeling and audio. And connected with past life, which is something that's never happened to me before, and was an intention coming here. I think the biggest one, though, was and is understanding that I had all these unconscious control patterns that I wasn't aware of, and I wasn't aware that they were there at all before coming here. And then I realised it was a blockage. And I could feel them, but I wasn't sure what they were. But then that allowed the process, I think the third and fourth process combined sort of really opened all of that up. And she revealed to me all of these control mechanisms, like time and money. The time one was very interesting because I lost complete consciousness around time. And I didn't hear you go around and call the time, so I had no... And it was cool. It was actually very cool not having any way of telling the time. And I loved it. It felt very comfortable in being in that space.
And what do you think now about to put another substance in your body?
Yeah, I don't want to put any other substances in my body, that's for sure.
And ayahuasca is another substance. What do you think about this now?
So I think it's been enormously helpful, and I definitely want to come back and do more, because the amount of joy, revelation, transformation has been incredible in a short space of time. I'm really interested to see what it'll be like to cope with life after this, particularly going back into a city work environment. And so I think I was questioning why people would come back and do it more than once at the beginning of the week, and now I understand why.
Do you think you will have the same insights without the workshops, only drinking ayahuasca?
No, the workshops, again, that's changed during the week. I've done a lot of workshop type work in the past, and I guess I thought, well, fine, that has its place. But I really saw, particularly by the time it got towards the end of the retreat, how the workshops and the interactions with the group and the people here and the environment, how it all fits together and it's all part of the process. I really saw that come together. And the workshops, particularly in the fourth journey, were incredibly useful. Connecting with the unlimited self, my unlimited self, and the Enneagram workshop, with so much content and so many triggers and stimulations in there to help with the process, and they just came up in the process spontaneously. Very helpful.
So about the people in my life that came up in the third ceremony that have been challenging for me. And I understood very clearly that although they've been a challenge, that how important that is to have these people in your life, because if you aren't challenged, then you don't look at yourself. You know, it's and I didn't realise that I've been carrying a lot of that energy, their energy around, and I had this really powerful vision of all of the chords and with them sort of stuck in my back. And that was my experience with the huge silver shears.
You are talking about the spirit releasement
Yeah.
workshop.
Yeah. And
That
where
was the most powerful for you?
Yeah, where I was cutting I went completely silver shear happy, you know, cutting all of these attachments, and it just felt incredible. And I feel, I've always felt very joyful, but I think I needed to re-experience my own joy, my joyfulness again at the level that I probably felt when I was younger, a child potentially, and doing all of that release made me feel incredibly enlightened and joyful and connected and in touch with that part of myself again. So it was hugely beneficial for me.
So you have less baggage now?
I certainly have a lot less baggage, thank you. And I feel a lot straighter as a result as well. Although obviously the wonderful food and the care and the yoga and the amazing massages that we had as well.
So the others, what do you think about the spirit releasement workshop? It was weird, it was...
I have done some work like that before, so for me it wasn't weird. It was weird the first time I experienced it. So I actually find that a very useful process, going inside to the body and just scanning the body to feel where a problem might be, or something that doesn't feel quite balanced, and then going inside that and asking its name, its colour, externalizing it, going inside it, understanding what it is, and then releasing it and healing it, to be a very effective process. And I've used cord cutting a few times with people, including Moggy, and it just every time works very effectively. So that I feel very at home with that idea of storing energies in our bodies that we may want or we may not want, and we may not know are there, and believe that the body knows what's there, even though we might not know in our conscious minds what's there. And so we can go inside and use those techniques very easily and very effectively to release those. And it feels like an ongoing cleaning process, you know, like servicing a car. It feels like something we should do regularly, change the oil, you know, just to be keeping on top of those energies that are coming into us all the time without us knowing. You know.